Alright, so the third and final film in the Guardians trilogy came out in theaters a couple of weeks ago. I have a review on my channel. I have a ranking of the James Gunn movies on my second channel, More ZMC. But today, I am going to give you my ranking of all 5 MCU trilogies. Yes, 5. I am not including the Avengers or Thor. Even though those were trilogies, they're not trilogies anymore. They're both quadrilogies. And even though the Avengers I could include as Infinity War and Endgame 1 movie, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to bring it only traditional and have 3 movies, period. And so that is what I'm going to do in today's video. But before I do that, please make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, hit the bell, and comment down below. What is your guys' ranking of the 5 MCU trilogies? I want to know all that and more down below in the comment section. What did you think of the Guardians trilogy as a whole? Because the final film came out. What do you think James Gunn's going to do over at DC? I want to know all that and more down below. And with that said, coming in last place, 5th place, I gotta go Captain America. And I know, this is one that hundreds of people adore. This is the one that people say is their favorite, is the best one. For me, this is easily the weakest. For one, all 3 of these movies, there's not a single one I love. All 3 of them are pretty down low on my list, and even though the MCU is a big franchise, down low on my list is still pretty good. I enjoy these movies, but none of them are movies that I would purposefully choose to rewatch. Maybe Civil War at times. None of those movies are movies that I really want to rewatch. And then besides that, the trilogy just doesn't feel whole. First off, we get the first one, which is a good start to the trilogy, and then the second one, which introduces the Winter Soldier, but also has Black Widow in it, and Falcon in it, and it feels like a kind of an Avengers movie, and then the third one has the Avengers fighting. It doesn't fully round out as a trilogy, and even though Captain America has his individual moments in there, I just never feel like it rounds out as a complete and whole trilogy, and that makes this be the weakest one here. I am ranking these based off how they feel as trilogies, and this one is easily last place because it feels like it instead Winter Soldier sets up Avengers Age of Ultron, and then Civil War sets up the rest of Phase 3 as the Avengers are broken up. It just feels like Captain America doesn't get his individual story throughout each one, and even though they're solid enough movies individually, it just doesn't round out as a trilogy. 4th place, I got the Ant-Man trilogy, and let me say, this is a huge step up from Captain America trilogy. I feel like this one rounds out as a trilogy. The first movie, one of the most overrated Marvel projects. That and Iron Man 3 are the most overrated, or underrated, I'm sorry. It's a very solid movie. It's a bank heist movie set inside the MCU, and I think that really works. I think that's one of the best things that the MCU could do, is that unique of a premise. Besides that, Ant-Man and the Wasp follows these characters, and it's a fun enough movie to come after Infinity War. I was a bit underwhelmed with it on rewatch, but it's a fun enough movie. And then we get to Quantumania, and here's where it starts to fall apart. Ant-Man 1, Ant-Man 2, they go together. Sure, you have to have Civil War to understand them, but Ant-Man 2, they both have the same kind of story elements. The smaller paced, more fun kind of story, following 2 characters as they go on smaller little adventures. And Quantumania, you take these characters and you throw them into the quantum realm to fight Kang, which is a good idea. I love that, as I love these characters, and I love Kang, but is that really the right movie to do it? An Ant-Man movie makes the trilogy cap off something that needs to be great, really not that good. I mean, the movie as an individually is pretty awful. Even upon thinking about it some more, I really don't like that movie at all. I mean, Kang is defeated by ants. Big ants come and chew him up. The biggest bat in the multiverse. He murdered millions of planets, and he gets chewed up by some ants. Okay, the way MODOK's done is absolutely horrendous. I mean, that movie is just such a mess. but then it doesn't really cap it off. It doesn't cap off anything about the trilogy. And even though first two movies are really small scale, this third one could have been bigger scale, but then it never really fully rounds out as a trilogy. It makes you feel like there's got to be one more Ant-Man movie, one more other stuff. And I mean, it really would have been nice if the movie was even good, or even gave our characters a round off. But it wasn't. It was another dual superhero movie that had nonsense in it. It was nonsensical, and I just could not get into the movie. That is my most disappointing movie of the year. I really did not like Quantumania, and so that's why this trilogy is so low. Like I said, the first two movies are solid enough. Quantumania ruins it. Third place, and let me just pause here. If I could give all three of these first place, I would. These next three trilogies, I love. They're A+ trilogies for me. It's just in order of which do I like just a little bit more. And so, here we go. Third place, this is gonna make a lot of you mad, the Guardians trilogy. Like I said, A+, tied for first. I said, I love these characters. I love the adventures that they go on. I love their interactions with each other. I love the emotions. James Gunn comes into this trilogy and crafts a perfect trilogy to where you love all the characters. You cannot wait for the next movie. The holiday special was great. Guardians 1 was great. Guardians 2 was good. Guardians 3 was pretty good. It's just a solid trilogy. And the thing that works here about the trilogy is that it works. The first film is the introduction. Second film takes them on the big adventure, sets up stuff for 3. And the third film, the way it ends, even though I was left this a bit unsatisfied, it makes sense for how this would end. A complete round off for these characters that we've been following for 10 plus years. And now that we get the trilogy end, their saga is over. It's a completed story. That's the reason that it works as well as it does. James Gunn doesn't come in here and say, this is an MCU trilogy, we need to set up other things. He goes in and says, this is a trilogy about characters that I care about that have to have a complete round off to that. The reason this is in third place is because as much as I love Guardians 1, the movies individually aren't great. I mean, Guardians 2 is pretty good. It just doesn't have stuff to do in the middle. Guardians 3, pretty good. I had a couple of issues with it. Maybe it's still my superhero fatigue talking, but I had a couple of issues with it. So the movies individually aren't all that great. I think that the Endgame and Infinity War movies are much better, but these are characters that I love. Characters that their saga ended, and it was pretty great for James Gunn to do that. Instead of being, this is MCU, he goes, this is Guardians trilogy. And it works, and it forms as trilogy. Like I said, A+ trilogy. The other two I do think are better. Speaking of that, number 2, Iron Man. The Iron Man trilogy. I love Iron Man. It's no doubt. I mean, the first Iron Man started the MCU in the most fantastic way it ever could. Iron Man 2 is the worst MCU movie. Just gonna hands out say that. It had a bit of a mishap there. That's why this trilogy isn't a number 1. But Iron Man 3 is absolutely phenomenal. It is the most overhated MCU project. I love this movie. I think that everything about it is pretty great. Even the twist, I don't mind. But aside from the movies, the trilogy as a whole works. The first movie, we're introduced to this character of Iron Man, right? He's this total jerk billionaire. And through the second movie, he's going through the worst stuff. I mean, the second movie, again, kind of sucks. And in the third movie, he learns his lesson. He gets attacked. His ego makes everything he ever loved go away. And now and then at the end of the movie, he realizes that being Iron Man is causing more problems on other people. So he throws that away. A plotline that's completely abandoned in Age of Ultron. But we're not going to talk about that because the trilogy as a whole follows this character. He grows, he makes mistakes, he learns from those mistakes, and at the end of the movie, his trilogy comes to a close in probably the best way besides my number one in the MCU. I do think that that extremely works, leaves the character off at a great place. If we didn't get any more movies with Iron Man in it after that, I would be disappointed, yes, because Robert Downey Jr. is great, but I would be fine with it because the third movie left him off at a perfect ending. And even though a lot of people don't like the third movie, whatever, I think it's a really overhated MCU project. I think it's a 10 out of 10. That movie is really good. And even Iron Man 1 is a fantastic introduction to this character. Not only that, but in the MCU, I think that really works. That's why that's a number 2. But my number 1 spot has to go to the Spider-Man MCU Trilogy. The Spider-Man movies aren't necessarily something I love. I never really liked Raimi's 1 or 2. I never even finished 2 because, not because I didn't like it, but because I was at my friend's house and we were having fun and whatever. But I never actually finished that. And the Venom movies I never really liked. I never finished The Amazing Spider-Man. Funny story when it comes to that. I rented the movie, I watched it, I fell asleep on one part, I watched it the next night, I fell asleep at the exact same part, so I never even got past that part in the movie. But the Spider-Man movies aren't necessarily anything that I love, except the MCU one. We get in here, we're introduced to the character in Civil War, so we get in here, and we don't have to waste time on the, oh, I'm Peter Parker, okay, gotta get bit by the spider, now I'm Spider-Man, my Uncle Ben dies. We don't gotta worry about that. We get in here, he's already Spider-Man, he's already fighting crime. He finds a vulture, and even though I said in Captain America, it feels like other Avengers movies, even though Iron Man's in here, it doesn't feel like an Avengers movie. It feels like someone that's also a threat to Peter while he's trying to do the right thing, and it's smaller scale for Spider-Man. It feels like a Spider-Man story. Far From Home has a bit of pacing issues, yes, but it feels like a smaller story. He goes on vacation, he ends up teaming up with Mysterio, he fights Mysterio. That is really good. And then we leave off number 2 with one of the biggest twists in all of Marvel. The world knows who Peter is. And so in Spider-Man 3, what's it called? No Way Home? We get in there, and sure, it's filled with cameos, but it makes sense. And it's not even just that. It ends Peter's trilogy fantastically. We get in there, and he learns that all these mistakes he's made has affected everybody else around him. And so he uses those mistakes, fixes them, ruins his life, but leaves the character at a perfect moment in this franchise. They take the character as a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Each movie progresses stakes to where he has nothing, and he must give that nothing away so he can save the world. That's something that is great. It's the only MCU movie that I almost cried at. It's very good cinema as well as MCU cinema. And I think it just works very well. And that's why it's my favorite trilogy. Alright, I want to know down below, what is your favorite MCU trilogy? What is your ranking of all 5 of them? I got a couple more videos coming up. I watched Breaking Bad Season 3. I watched the movie Air. Fast and Furious 10. Fast X is coming out, and the initial reactions are bad. Great, that's my favorite action franchise of all time. I still got 2 more of those movies to even watch, so I'll do that, and then I'll have a review of that, and then a ranking on this channel. So, thank you guys for clicking on this video. Stay tuned for all those videos, and